And we're live. I am here with Laurel, and we are going to talk about the. Oh, do you mind if we curse?
No, that's fine.
I curse on live streams usually.
I just waved at the camera because I forgot. So for the audience, like we have been trying to do technical stuff for the past half an hour because I haven't done Google Hangouts on this computer. This computer is relatively new. When we did it before, I had my laptop. So I had to install, I didn't know I was going to need to install stuff. I had to install all this stuff. And then now we can't get my video to work. My video works. I just can't connect it to Google Hangouts. So that's why we've got my icon on there instead of my video. So I hope everybody in the audience thinks it's awesome anyway. But anyway, that's awesome, an explanation.
You're awesome. So today we're going to talk about Shitty Poverty Law Center.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
So, and she actually did this huge uncover about it. Tell a little bit about some of the stuff you've been talking about in your recent videos. And then I want to tell my story about how I first came across the Shitty Poverty Law Center and how that happened. Because I think it's an interesting story and it goes well with all your other stuff.
Well, I actually, in not the most recent video, but the one before that, I said that the Southern Poverty Law Center is our enemy number one.
Absolutely.
And I really think that it's not just enemy number one in the United States. It's going to be enemy number one for all the people on our side, whatever our side is. We all sort of know what it means when I say our side, but we don't have a name for it that we all agree on. Our side.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess the closest is probably, like you call it, the
intellectual dark web, but I feel like intellectual dark web is more specific. It's people. See, this is where I got into some controversy when I said our group is only about 1 million strong, and people are like, "Dude, you're way off." And I'm like, "Well, I mean the intellectual dark web. By that I mean the people who are making videos that are really getting in depth in a lot of these topics, and also the people watching them. So it would be the intellectual dark web creators and the intellectual dark web audience, which I think is a much smaller group than everybody sort of on the right or conservatives or anti-leftists, whatever you want to call us.
There's a whole spectrum because I mean, there's people who watch like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder. And, like a lot of people are only watching the really big creators. They don't know the smaller creators yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're kind of do you include them or not?
Yeah, I don't know. But ultimately, okay, so Southern Poverty Law Center, and the reason they're so significant is because too many people are listening to them. And by too many people, I'm talking about politicians, I'm talking about advertisers, businesses, financial institutions.
The left-wing media.
Everybody on the left is listening to the Southern Poverty Law Center and their not even their definition, just their declaration of who is and is not an extremist, who is and is not a hate group, etc. They're just taking everything the SPLC says at face value. And a lot of these groups, financial institutions, et cetera, are coming down hard on anybody that the SPLC says to come down on, as if they were like true Nazis, as if they were the type of people who committed the Christchurch shooting. They're coming down on all of us as if we were that guy. And that is a big problem when people like MasterCard, where organizations like MasterCard are kicking people off of their services because the SPLC says that they're a hate group. That's where they're getting their information and their declarations from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where a lot of, ultimately, they're not the ones that are shutting down free speech. They're not the ones that are deplatforming, but they're telling the companies whom to deplatform. And the companies probably wouldn't be deplatforming these people if the SPLC say, hey, deplatform them. So I'm not going to put all of the responsibility on the SPLC because it's the platforms and the MasterCard and the politicians, et cetera.
Well, I don't think these companies are asking Shitty Poverty Law Center. I think Shitty Poverty Law Center
is approaching them and pressuring them.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're nagging. Like we saw, who was it? Brian Stelter or was it? No, Oliver Darcy.
Like, but they could still say no. MasterCard could still say no.
True. But I'm saying, like, they are, that's their thing. They're lean. We have a guy in my neighborhood, and being like a Jewish neighborhood, it's all very, very, very close knit. And so there a lot of people vote conservative, not as much as some of the other Jewish neighborhoods, but there is a guy who is not a conservative. He's a very outspoken Democrat. And in like our Jewish or our neighborhood, and the neighborhood is basically all Jewish, groups on Facebook, I'll put a post up, and immediately he comes underneath and he's like, she's a Republican, she's a Trump supporter. Like, you know how they do, but he does that even within our neighborhood. So, that's what they do. Like, they lean over and over and over again, lean on, the organizations, just like the Democrats themselves. Like, this is what this guy is doing. He's leaning on the people in our neighborhood, and he's turning our neighborhood.
Right. And then we don't do the same thing. And then some people say, well, we should do that too. And I'm like, that's not the world that I want to live in. I don't want both of us doing that. I want neither of us doing that. So we shouldn't also go after, I mean, sometimes we should, but not.
I don't know. I think we should at least like leaning on and pressuring on. I think we should have no problem doing that, but
we should only do it when it's a true extremist, when it's somebody who really deserves it, and not a lot of the moderates. We shouldn't be trying to silence the moderates on the other side. We really shouldn't be trying to silence anybody, except maybe the SPLC.
Yes.
I mean, we really need to be protesting at the SPLC. We need to go down to Alabama and protest in front of them.
I bet we got plenty of conservatives down there. Or, yeah, exactly. Or like maybe that's something I should do. Maybe I should try to get the conservatives here in New York to for us to like organize a protest in front of like New York Times that says like stop listening to the SPLC or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's what somebody said. They said instead of we recently had a protest in our neighborhood. And somebody was like, why are we having a protest in our neighborhood? We should, have the protest like in front of CNN, in front of Twitter, in front of, and it was like a more moderate conservative who said this, who probably doesn't even realize people like Laurel Loomer, like how Laurel Loomer chained herself to the doors. I want to stop for a second and let you know we have some comments. So,
okay.
Hello. We want video. Just kidding. SPLC is anti-American. They are the enemies of Americans, especially conservatives. No Muslims are extremists. Only white Christians. I'm sure they're saying this as if, because that's what the SPLC says. Oh, yeah. Next comment was, according to the SPLC. Another person pops in, actually, their screen name, good screen name, The Truth About de Blasio, which means this person is probably local to me. Fuck the SPLC. They would put someone on a hate group list for being on a Trump supporter page. It's so true. Sounds like a beta male loser. We should stand up and fight back. Another person jumped in and says, El Vaquero, which means the cowboy, 555. The philosophy of driving left is completely disconnected from objective reality, as in their thinkers literally don't believe in objective reality, only subjective reality. It's a disconnect from the rest of the country that would be very difficult to reconcile.
I think we could
have a strange view of reality. It's not a view of reality. It's all about just whatever they can do to create all kinds of chaos. That's how they've been overthrowing other countries. That's how Soros has been overthrowing other countries. I think Soros is probably in bed with the SPLC big time.
Yeah. Well, I think we can bring the left back to a sense of reality, but only if we have a chance to speak. We can't bring them back to reality if we are silenced, and only if they don't take everything over completely by doing things like getting rid of the Electoral College.
I know.
One of the issues is we're hitting a tipping point because we're always close to each other. And I think it's actually good when we're close to 50-50. And it probably doesn't take that much, this is the downside, for them to get enough of an advantage. If they make it so that it's a pure democracy instead of a republic, then they have too much power. And that's where they're headed. For the SPLC, it's not even, this is part of my Operation Choke Point research, was that a lot of the platforms are being pressured by the financial institutions, and the financial institutions are being pressured by the FDIC and the SPLC. So SPLC is enemy number one, and the FDIC, I think, is number two. So it looks like, it seems at first like, we should go protest at the platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But when you get into Operation Choke Point, you realize, oh no, we need to go protest at the SPLC, at the FDIC, at Chase, and at MasterCard. And once the problem is resolved there, I think the platforms will be a lot more cooperative with free speech.
Right. I hope all of you guys, we have at least 3 people commenting. Let's see. Does it say how many people are watching? I don't know how many people are watching. But anyway, we've got at least 3 people who've put comments in the comment window.
We've got 6.
Oh, we've got 6? Oh, okay. Awesome. So anyway, so we've got 6 people watching. I don't know if I count. I don't know if I count as that. Yeah, Tony just put that up. It says 6. So we've got 6 people watching. So I don't know if the 6 of you have
I think I'm one of them.
Yeah, you might be, and I might be one of them. So it might only be 4 people. But I don't know if you guys have asking you guys in the comments, Vaquero, Tony, and the truth about De Blasio. Did you guys, and the other person who hasn't said anything yet, have you guys ever checked out Laurel's channel? Are you?
El Vaquero is one of my subscribers, I think.
Ah, okay.
I recognize him.
Okay, so that's right. Did you post this on
I did. I said on my community thing, I said that I was going to be doing this. I said I would start at 9 though, so we were a tad late. I don't know how many people. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry, we had some technical.
No, there was a lot of emails back and forth with me saying it's not working. What do I do?
I know. Yeah. Because originally we were going to stream from Laurel's channel. So anyway.
Oh, I thought we were okay. So I thought the plan was to stream from yours the whole time. There you go. There's part of the problem I was apparently confused about that.
Anyway, so so you guys should check out Laura. So she's an attorney for starters, but she does awesome research, finds some really you're finding stuff that I'm not seeing from other.
Like what?
Like your expose from the SPLC was better than the AOC expose that went viral from Mr. Reagan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Most of what he covered, like Magdalena Rose had covered some of the stuff he covered, but what was new from his, I know this is like off topic, but what was new on Mr. Reagan's video was the thing about the t-shirt and Subhash Chandra Bose was the name of the guy. So all right, so she did a really good expose of the SPLC, and then let's talk about the ties to not Jesse, Jossie, a forced Southern accent.
Yeah, Jussie. What do you want to talk about with Jussie?
So let's talk about the ties between Jussie and Shitty Poverty Law Center. Yes. We already scheduled to talk about Shitty Poverty Law Center, but then the ties to well, yeah, I was doing the research for the Jussie Smollett case, and I saw Tina Chen was involved in this, and I said, oh my God,
That's the new director of the SPLC. So Tina Chen, okay, so here's the whole story for people who haven't watched the video that I did. Okay, so with Jussie Smollett, the prosecutor, or sorry, the state attorneys general for Cook County, which is where Chicago is located, the state attorneys general is Kim Foxx. And she knows Tina Chen. Tina Chen is the former chief of staff for Michelle Obama. And Tina Chen is also friends with the Smollett family, and the Smollett family is also friends with the Obamas. So the sister of Jussie Smollett, her name is Journey Smollett Bell, was talking to Tina Chen, and Tina Chen said that she would give Kim Foxx, she would contact her, and they would try to get the case transferred over to the FBI from the Chicago police. Now, the FBI were already involved in the case, but they wanted the Chicago police to stop being involved in it at all and to hand it over to the FBI completely. So Tina Chen had sent that email to Kim Foxx on behalf of the Smollett family. So that is an ethics violation because Tina Chen is an attorney, and an attorney is not allowed to say to anybody that she has any kind of influence over other government officials. So she obviously, because she was in communication with the Smollett family, informed or implied or stated to the Smollett family that she could influence Kim Foxx in regard to this case. That's an ethics violation. She could have her law license suspended, she could possibly be disbarred, although that might be a little excessive. So she committed an ethics violation in doing that. And then Kim Foxx, instead of saying, hey, why are you contacting me? This is an ongoing investigation. I can't be talking to the family, etc. Contacted the Chicago police, the superintendent, and tried to get him to hand the case in its entirety over to the FBI. Now, when you look at the timeline, I think now the excuse that they're making is that at the time Kim Foxx made that contact, she believed that Jussie was the victim and she's allowed to talk to the victim's family. I think that's pretty flimsy because there were suspicions that he had done it to himself from the get-go. There was already a lot of suspicion about that. So I think it's pretty disingenuous for her to be claiming that she was seeing him as the victim and not a suspect in the case. And another thing that's just come out is, because when I did my video, I pointed out that there is this diversion program, an alternative sentencing program that was available to Jussie, where he would basically do community service and pay a fine, stay clean for a year, and then the charges would be dismissed. That's actually a relatively common thing to do for a first offense, for somebody who hasn't previously been convicted.
Right, it's similar to an ACD, if people know what those are.
Yeah, so the recent emails that have surfaced that the Chicago police gave to the press, and the press had done a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, to get a copy of the file, and the Chicago police was giving it to them, and then they suddenly stopped and they said, oops, we didn't realize this was covered with the judge's order to seal the case. Yeah, they knew. They were just basically leaking it. So they had given this email over to the press where Kim Foxx, again, the state attorney general, had sent an email to all of her staff saying, does anybody know of a precedent case, something we've done in the past, where we've basically done this, given a fine and community service, but didn't do the diversion program. And I don't know whether she got a response at all, but she was basically, she wanted to do that and she wasn't sure that she could, and then did it. But it clearly from the email, she's indicating that this is not a normal thing. And the question that comes up is, why not just do the diversion program? Why not just do that alternative site? What is it called in Illinois? Let me look it up because I said it like 100 times in my video yesterday. It is, it's in one of these, the Offender Initiative Program. So she could have done the Offender Initiative Program. The main difference between the Offender Initiative Program and what they did is a 12-month waiting period. That's the difference, because everything else would have been the same, except he would have had to stay clean for a year. So why didn't she want him to stay clean for a year? Why didn't she want to wait a year? And it's because, well, the difference between waiting a year and not waiting a year is if you get the charges dismissed immediately, they can seal the records. So I suspect that was the reason she wanted to get those records sealed. Why? That's what we need to know. Why? Why did she want to get those records sealed immediately? So hopefully we'll find out.
So Tony, are you happy you found a new channel you're gonna love? So I'll tell you my whole story with how I came, how they came on my radar. So right when I was like politically waking up, I mean, I was a conservative, but I was like, you know, your typical, like, if I vote in a presidential election, that's a lot, you know. I knew who Ann Coulter was. I knew who Tommy Lahren was. I watched Steven Crowder, didn't even know his name, you know, watched Rebel Media, didn't even know their name. So that's about how awake I was at that point. And then when the whole thing happened with the Milo riot, and I discovered it was communism, that's when I like went through the rabbit hole and never looked back. And of course, the big thing with that was BAM! So people in the YouTube comments were saying Tides and Ford Foundation. So I go, they were like, look it up, that's who's financing this. So I go and I look up Tides and Ford Foundation, and then I start looking who's financing Tides Foundation and Ford Foundation, because I actually was able to find proof that they were indeed some of the big groups covering are financing them. So I start looking, so then I start looking up who's financing all of these groups, and basically I was, you know, all these groups that would come up, I started looking up who was financing all of them. And it was like this big web. And let me tell you something. There was one that I ended up going to their website because I saw their name over and over and over again. And who do you think that was?
SPLC?
Yep. Shitty Poverty Law Center.
Yes.
And right away, like, I was looking at the name, I was like, they look like they'd be like this nice organization.
Well, they used to be.
I don't know if that's
once upon a time.
Honestly, I'm not even sure that's true, but they definitely aren't now. Let's put it. We know that. I'm not sure that they ever were, but maybe they hit it better, is what I think, because
their early cases were in the 70s, and they were suing the Ku Klux Klan for actual hate crimes, like real honest to God stuff. And if you're suing in the 70s, then we're talking about stuff that happened in the late 60s or the early 70s. And there was some shit that went down. And so they sued the Ku Klux Klan. I can't say it. Me and Kamala Harris, we can't say it. So they sued them and they won, and they actually bankrupted the KKK. So that was that was their claim to fame when they began. And I have to say, suing for actual hate crimes, like stuff that actually happened and not the fake stuff that we see so often now, that is commendable. And that's how they earned their reputation at the beginning. And just so that it's clear to everybody what the connection is between the Smollett case and the SPLC, it was, again, Tina Chen, who used to work for the Obamas. She's the one who tried to get the case moved over to the FBI. She's the one who contacted the Attorney General, Kim Foxx, to try to get the case moved over to the FBI, and she is going to be the director of the SPLC. So she was basically involved in a fake hate crime, and now she's going to go work as the president of the SPLC. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence that the SPLC is going to be reporting true information, because it doesn't seem to me that she takes it seriously when there's a fake hate crime.
Right. Yeah, well, they're about to get worse, probably. That's what it looks like. Everyone's like, yay, they're imploding. And it's like, wait, they're getting a new president? Like, uh-oh.
Well, now I wonder if the implosion, if that's why they imploded. At first, I just thought, oh, they're imploding. And also, by the way, this other person who's coming in. Now I'm looking at it, now that I see this connection with the Jussie Smollett case, and I'm saying, oh, maybe they imploded so that Tina Chen could come in.
I mean, another thing is, if you look at it, what's his name? These men that just retired, they're I think over 65.
Retired?
So, I mean,
one of them was fired. One of the co-founders was fired. It's very clear. All the articles said that he was fired. And so another person resigned.
yeah,
I don't know in protest, I don't know whether he was asked to leave. And also
I'm guessing that him being fired was probably staged. It's probably basically a retirement. They're probably trying to trick the conservatives to make us like get a false hope so that like they can come back with a vengeance, which is very
I don't think so, because a lot of these people stake their reputations. Like their reputation is very important to them. They need that virtue signaling. It makes them, that's what they run on. They run on virtue signaling.
Yeah,
so
but
I don't think he would take that kind of a hit.
A lot of the people, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I don't think it was staged.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way. So, yeah, basically she uncovered these ties to, now you also found the ties to them and FDIC too, right?
To the Southern Poverty Law Center, I don't think there's a direct link between SPLC and FDIC. They sort of, they're doing some similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, I don't think there's a direct connection. They seem to be going in, they're parallel, but I don't think they're connected. Although, maybe their connection is Obama, because it's when it was under the Obama administration that the FDIC went awry. And then, of course, the Obama administration, Tina Chen used to work for Michelle Obama. So if there's a connection, it's the Obamas.
Mm.
Before all of this, I always thought the Obamas were upstanding people, and they maybe made some mistakes. But they were all well-intentioned. Now I'm starting to wonder.
I haven't thought that in a while. When he became president, the thing is, I didn't vote in that election. I mildly preferred McCain, but I wasn't registered to vote. I'm like, I prefer him not even enough to bother to go register, because I didn't like McCain, I didn't like Obama, and I wasn't politically awake enough to have been watching the primaries or dealing with the primaries. But so when Obama got elected, I was kind of like, okay, I guess I should keep an open mind, give him a chance,
Mm-hmm.
And then what was it? Oh, the stimulus thing where he gave money to the banks to bail them out. I was like, ugh.
Well, wasn't that the idea of the previous administration? Because it was all going down in
Probably.
late 2008.
Bush, yeah, well, that was like the first like major thing that happened that like I couldn't stand. So it was probably early in the presidency. I mean, I am not a huge fan of the Bushes either. I mean, like, I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not like, yeah, hey, all Republicans, partisan hack. Like, I'm ready to call out the rhinos too. Like, even Trump, like, I was really pissed off about the First Step Act. I don't know if you followed that, but I was really unhappy with it.
What? Give me the highlights.
So basically, it's making it so that people can get out of jail even faster.
Well, I mean,
no matter what, they claim that it was like for people who went away for like minor stuff, like, having weed in your pocket or whatever. Yeah. But in actuality, all criminals.
Yeah, okay. All criminals. I'm not cool with that. I mean, I think there's, for a lot of the drug offenses, some of the simple, especially, you gave the best example, somebody with simple possession of marijuana, then I don't think they belong in jail. But there's a lot of other stuff where, yeah, they do. I tell you what I'm against. I call it exile in place, which is after somebody gets out of jail, then they can't get a job, they can't get an apartment, they can't get a mortgage, and they have all of these other problems that make it impossible for them to rehabilitate, because they've basically been exiled from society, even though they're in society. And I have issues with that. People need to be able to get their lives back together. But I would rather they did their punishment in prison, and then once the punishment is over, it's over. And there's going to be some exceptions, like, obviously if you hurt children, you shouldn't be allowed to work with children. So there's going to be some things like that. But in general, I think after people get out, they should be able to move on with their lives.
Sex offender, you should be hired as a drag queen story hour reading to 3-year-olds. Did you hear about Houston?
Yeah, I did.
Then we have a problem.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, Tony says, oh, exactly. That's what the First Step Act is trying to change. Well, this is what I didn't like. They sold it to the American public to whatever extent they sold it. They mostly kept it hush-hush. But to the extent that they sold people on this was they tried to act like it was only for, minor offenses. But in reality, it said all criminals. All criminals. All of them. Yeah. So, and I actually went through, I did a really long video, and then I did a second version where I basically summarized what was in the long video. But it was basically going through and seeing like what kind of crimes, like notable people who were in various prisons of different security levels. So I started with I think the most minimum, and then I moved up to the most maximum. And I think by low security, it was something before minimum, and then low, and then medium, and then high, and then there was high on steroids. I forget what it was. Maybe super max or something like that. Super max security. Max and super max. I think there were two federal facilities above high, and I think it was max, and then another one that was super max. But so I started
Sounds
going
like feminine hygiene products.
I know, right? We were seeing murders already at I think low. I started seeing a couple murders, and even at medium security prison. So it's people are already. I mean, you would think a murderer should already be in a high security prison, and yet I was already finding some in low, and I was finding a lot already in medium.
Yeah.
Surprising. Can you not see me, AC? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so going back to the comments again. Lots of comments here. Okay. Respect me. Respect Tony Patriot. Is SPL asking? What are they asking? I don't understand. Respect to you or telling. At SPLC is the enemy of the American people.
That's true.
Absolutely. Someone prophesied that this epic would be ruled the spirit of the child. Boy, oh boy. El Vaquero says, Gavin McGinnis is suing the SPLC, and reports are out there. 60 other orgs and people talking about doing the same. I hope
they should. Everybody should sue them. It's defamation.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Matrix says yes. I thought that for the first year of his presidency, after the first year, I realized Obama wants to destroy America. Yeah, within the first term, I did not like him. But then same thing with the second. I wasn't registered to vote. They came out with I was the Republican that they came up with was terrible. Who was it? It was some rhino. What was his name? It was the Mormon.
Oh, now I forget his name too. Tell us in the chat.
Someone in the chat, hopefully you know. Okay, let's see. My mental illness is diagnosed as ocasio-cortex. Funny face. McCain versus Obama. I voted Bob Barr. Never trusted Obama. I'm a Trumpster-can, like a Trumplican. We also need to extend hands to the walkaway Dems. Well, if they walk away, they're not Dems anymore. We want rational.
It was Mitt Romney.
Yes, Mitt Romney. That's right. Mittens Romney. That's what Vaquero said. Let's see.
By the way, I'm looking at my
criminals. No, it's not. Tony Patriot. You need to watch John Miller's video on the First Step Act, because his summarizes it perfectly. My videos are good, but he summarized it perfectly. I can't even. Tree of Logic also talked about the First Step Act.
By the way, I'm looking at my list of videos, and mysteriously, my Jussie Smollett SPLC video, the one I just did, is now monetized again. YouTube is on crack, because when it first came out, it was monetized, and then it was demonetized. And I decided not to fight it, because I'm like, I'm not going to fight, because I know that if it has the SPLC in the title, they're just going to demonetize it. And now it's monetized. So I don't understand. I didn't fight it. Whatever.
That's hilarious. Okay, current prison system, criminal university. Maybe some undercover conservative at Google on the slide, like
that'd be cool.
I wonder if we're actually like turning Google employees when they have to watch our videos to like see if like
I wonder. Yeah, so maybe we should fight it every time. Every time they demonetize, we should fight it just to make them watch the video.
Exactly.
I'm still talking into the camera as if it's on.
It's only for non-violent. Okay, that's where I left off. The current prison system equals criminal university. Truth. That was El Vaqueros who said that. We welcome rational free speech discussion. Yeah, like normal Democrats, like 90s Democrats, JFK Democrats, no problem. We don't need most people who vote Democrat are not these like nut job far left commies. I mean, even like the unions who are kind of like have been in bed with all of this stuff, those unions are even coming out and like Tim Pool did a video about the AFL-CIO. Yeah, exactly. Basically like said they don't like the Green New Deal and they don't endorse it, and and it's like that's pretty bad because they've been in bed with the Democrats even while things were starting to get into this like far left nutness. And I think they finally said, like, okay, yeah, that's enough for us. I mean, they claim to be for workers. That's not really true of the unions because the unions have basically been Democrats when, like, Clinton was sending all the jobs overseas on the sly. So, and the unions were, like, letting that happen and not.
I'm not a fan of unions in general. I respect people's right to collective bargaining. So I would never try to get rid of unions completely, but I do not hold them in high regard. And a big part of that is because I am from suburban Philadelphia and people would strike all the fucking time. And it just looked like an abuse of power by the unions over the people. The SEPTA strikes all the time. The trash pickup people strike all the time. The electricians strike all the time. It's infuriating. It's something that a strike should be used in the most dire of circumstances when you don't have any other options. It's not a tool to wield around all the time. And that's why Philadelphia is broke. That's why they chase away all of the businesses. They're just a bunch of fucking idiots, those unions.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you about how I started tracing BAM and then started tracing all those organizations that I was finding when I traced BAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept finding, I saw so many unions, and this was eye-opening to me. Like, I did not know this kind of thing at the time. I didn't really even understand that. I know my mother said, oh, you got to vote Democrat your whole life because unions are Democrats and your father works for a union and we have to support the people, that help your father. I hit 18 and I've never, anytime I've voted for a president, I've voted Republican, but I have voted for some people on like lower Democrat tickets. Like I voted for Hillary for senator.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't in that job back then.
I used to be a Democrat, so I would vote Democrat. Well, see, the people in the unions, they say, we're for the people. I'm like, no, you're for the union, even if the union is against the people. So it's the people within the union, and they don't give a fuck about the people who are not in the union, the general population. And they will fuck over the general population if it is in their best interest. So they should not say that they are for the people. They are for themselves.
Right, but they're not even for the workers because the unions themselves. Like, here's another thing: if you're in the union, like, you don't even know who's running the union. Somebody pointed that out to me, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. So, and then you're forced to give up part of your pay. So, I mean, yeah. El Vaquero said the unions tried to move into my state in the 50s. They threatened violence. My grandfather sicked a rather mean dog on one of them for doing so. What's your state, El Vaquero? Are you in Texas? AC in the place to be? Is that right? I think you mean is the place to be. Hello, Zelix. Or is it Zelix? Is it Zelix or Zelix? Oh, New Mexico. Okay, so one state over, right?
Yes.
El Vaquero is awesome. Oh, apparently Zelix or Zelix. Is it Zelix or Zelix? Anyway, he already knows your subscriber, El Vaquero, so cool.
It should be pronounced Zelix because there you go, it's Zelix, because if it were Zelix, it would have 2 L's.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think that's what I was naturally thinking it. And then I was like, well, maybe I'm like assuming wrong. So, but yeah. And Matrix says, I thought that too, because they had Southern. I've heard him on Red Elephants. Good stuff.
Heard whom?
Probably El Vaquero.
Oh, El Vaquero, have you been on the Red Elephants?
Maybe they used to do a call-in show.
Oh.
Yeah. Or maybe he means like he saw him in the comments. But I kind of pulled back from Red Elephants because of like their stance on Jews.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he does some really good research, but then he starts blaming it on Jews, and I'm just like, click off. You know, I mean, we definitely like. I'm not gonna say, you know, there isn't like a slant, but there is one thing that people don't really talk about. I will give Vince credit that he has mentioned this, that he probably learned. I know I've commented it, and he may have learned this from Halsey because I believe they actually speak to each other, or have. I don't know how much, but you know, the thing is, there's 3 different sections of Judaism. There's actually a 4th called Reconstruction, but it's like really, really small. And if you figure Jews are already 2% of the population, that's like 1% of Jews. But so you have Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. So Reform Jews, that's the largest section of Jews. And when they go to like, you know how if you're in church and you go to like church, you learn like church stuff. And you know, if you're an Orthodox Jew, you actually learn like the Torah. But if you're a Reformed Jew, you learn social justice as if that's your religion. And this is one of the reasons why there's so many Jews who are problematic. But it's a specific section of Judaism that's particularly bad.
So. I think Ben Shapiro calls them secular Jews, which is probably a bit of an insult if they're actually going to services.
I mean, technically secular Jews would be like another section, and that's somebody who basically has no affiliation at all whatsoever. So there's kind of crossover between Reform and secular, because there's people who like they get bar mitzvahed through a Reform synagogue, and then like they never go to a synagogue ever again.
Right.
So, yeah. Somebody says, Zelix says, well, like I told Tree, take the good and leave the bad. People may not like everything, but it's good to take what you can learn from, regarding Red Elephants, yeah. But when he starts going like into conspiracy, anyway, also he covers, I mean, everybody is covering the same topics for the most part. So it's like I go into my subscriptions, and you know, usually there's like 5, 8 videos on the exact same topic.
Right.
So I'm going to watch 2 or 3 of them from channels that I like the best.
See, and I've debated, like, if there's a topic everybody else is doing, then I wonder, should I do that one? Should I not do that one? And I've decided to go ahead and do it if I care about it, because sometimes there'll be a topic only 1 or 2 people do. And then I say, oh, wow, that was really interesting. Why aren't other people talking about this? And it just doesn't get as much notice if only 1 or 2 people do it. Like Styx was doing a number of videos on the most recent Ebola outbreak, and nobody else was doing it.
Wow.
So it was almost like it was a fringe topic, when actually it was a pretty big deal. And it really is when everybody is talking about it that you say, oh, this one's important. So I do think that there is a value in, you know, dogpiling and going ahead and, well, maybe dogpiling is the wrong term, but joining the bandwagon.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually. I mean, one of the other things is people who are newer, when I was newer to political YouTube, one of the ways I found my new channels was when a topic would come out and I would search for other videos on the same topic.
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually how I found a lot of my channels. So in a way, it's also good because if other people are finding their channels that way, it can help you build your subscriber base that way.
What I try to do is, even though everybody else is doing the same topic, I try to do a different take on it.
Right.
So that I can give maybe a different perspective. And then sometimes I'll go ahead and do a popular topic, basically for the views, because once I get subscribers, then so it's like you're having a soda or something. Either that or you're taking a bath.
I'm pouring water into a glass and I'm like, I don't think I'm peeing. I should probably mute because she's talking. Let you talk.
So I'll get the subscribers, and then those subscribers will be there later when I do a topic that's not as popular, you know, something everybody isn't doing. And I don't get as many views on those, but I do get some. So there is a value in occasionally doing a video that you know is just going to get you a bunch of views, because then it helps build your channel for when you want to talk about other stuff.
Right. Well, I tend to watch, like, you're one of the people that when a lot of people do the topic, you're one of the people that I'm likely to watch your video on it.
Oh, thank you.
So, but I mean, you have good research. Your channel is already growing like super, super fast.
It's growing quickly. I'm pleased with how quickly it's growing. But then, you know, I really shouldn't compare myself to some of the superstars. But I do. Mr. Reagan only started his channel a month before mine, and he's got like 100,000 subscribers now. So yeah, wow. I look at one of those and I'm like, I'm not growing that fast. You look at Mr. Reagan, and he went from 0 to 100,000 in 1 month longer than.
Well, he basically doubled his subscription base from that one video that went viral.
And and I'm happy for him. He worked really hard on it, and you can see in his like next video or two how excited he is. And I like that excitement when he's like, because he said, I think it was his very next video, that he was able to quit his job. He says, I'm doing this full time now. And I'm like, oh, yay, good for him.
He didn't say he quit his job. He said he's doing this full time now.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he means. He quit his job.
Caveat is he lives in LA, so he might be like, I think I saw somebody said in the comments that he was like a screenwriter or something like that. But that still means he was probably like a waiter or something. The other thing I was thinking is maybe he got outed as a conservative and got fired for it because it went viral enough.
That's possible. But, you know, the apartment that he's filming from, it looks pretty sweet. You look at that view. Yeah, I don't think he was a waiter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing is like maybe he comes from family money or something.
That's possible.
Yeah, he may also have roommates too, so it may not.
Regardless, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, because
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, even if you have a really nice apartment, like if you have roommates. Well, he said something about his girlfriend, so he probably lives with his girlfriend, so it's
yeah.
Probably doesn't have to pay all the rent by himself. So, but like if he was like an actor, he may have money coming in from that. Like if he was like a voice actor and did commercials and stuff like that.
Oh, there's a thought. He might have been a voice actor because I'm thinking I've never seen him before.
Yeah.
He could be a voice actor.
Even if he was an actor, like there's plenty of actors who like do things like commercials and like bit parts, and it's very easy, especially for people like us who almost, you know, who are like semi boycotting Hollywood to boycotting Hollywood, you know. So like
I think if he were an actor though, he would have had the mole on his face removed.
Yeah, maybe.
So because it's probably not that expensive to get it removed if your job is to appear on camera.
Right. Yeah. He might be doing like extra work and stuff like that too. But like I said, he might be like bit parts. You could probably have something like that and still get away with it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it depends.
But then, okay, so he skyrocketed. And then there's other people that I've seen building very, very slowly, like blue collar workers, the blue collar logic.
Yes, yes.
Theirs has built very slow, and I've been sort of surprised how slow it's been. They're up to 100,000 now, which is awesome, and I'm very happy for them. They've been at this for over 2 years, and they're just hitting 100,000 now. So they grew very slowly, even though their content is excellent. They have really, really good content.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you probably, I don't know if you saw this happen, but do you know who Ashton Birdie is?
No.
Okay, so when Ashton Birdie, she created her channel like a month after me.
Mm-hmm.
And she has like 160 now.
Nice.
She like went, and I like knew who she was. So like I was actually the first comment ever on her channel and like her third subscriber, which is like crazy.
Uh-huh.
And like I think her fourth view ever. Because I had just followed her on Twitter. But like she skyrocketed. Like she like had a couple hundred like within the first couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And then she blew up to like 5,000 within like a week or something like that. And then
wow.
like she you got to look at it on Social Blade. The only person I think who was blown up faster than Ashton Birdie did would be Candace Owens.
Oh, Candace, I mean that was just crazy.
And we don't want to talk about her. I don't like her.
Well, that's part of why people were so suspicious. She didn't make that many videos, and all of a sudden she was on the Dave Rubin show. And they made like 3 or 4 videos. What's going on?
She had a PR agent. Hands down, she lies about it. There was a guy there were people in the comments of the way she blew up, and she must have been paying a PR firm to do this. But there was constantly comments all over videos saying that, you know, the left calls us racist, but now we have Candace Owens, but now we have Red Pill Black. And I remember being so annoyed because I was like, we have Black conservatives. Who the hell is this woman to act like all of a sudden we have her and she's going to save us from the left or something?
Yeah, yeah.
And this was like before she even blew up, and I refused to look at her channel for a long time. And then I finally watched one of her videos and subscribed. And then like, I think a week later, Tree of Logic's video came out, and I was just like, I'm sorry. Tree work, but I was already subscribed to Tree. So I was like, then I was one of the first people to come out with a video after Tree, because as soon as I saw Tree's, I did some research and I put something out like later on that night. She put hers out. I saw it before I left the house. And then like I was thinking about like what angle do I want to take like all day. And then I came home and I made my video and put it out. So she put her video out, I think like maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. I put my video out at like 8 at night that night. And then like the following day, it exploded with tons of people, because also it took time where one of the reasons why when Tree did hers and it exploded, there were a handful of people who started getting on, who started like tweeting at anybody who was like a big creator that they followed. And some of these people, like occasionally follow back like random subscribers of theirs, or like if they have a moderator, they'll follow them on Twitter. And this was able to get elevated to bigger people, so it exploded on YouTube. I think this is before you were like, you know, super politically awake the way we are now.
Yeah.
So that was all October 2017. Yeah.
I was already getting, I mean, I was red pilled before then. Are we still saying red pilled, or is that completely forward?
Yeah, we don't really use that term. I hate Twitter. Bagel gang, gang, gang. I'll be honest, I'm lost, low.
Well, it's because you went away. It says be right back, and then you came back and you were lost. We were talking about Candace Owens. So let's do just a couple more, because I have written down a bunch of topics that I thought maybe we might want to talk about.
Okay.
So we did several of them. Oh, this one was interesting. I saw a video that Sargon did, and he was saying there was a Pakistani Christian woman. Did you see this video?
Was it Asia Bibi?
Oh, I don't remember the woman's name, but he said that in Pakistan, she was a Christian woman and a Christian family, and apparently she got into an argument with some other women at the well, and they told the police that she blasphemed against Muhammad.
Oh, I heard somebody talking about this. I don't really watch Sargon, so.
So she got arrested, and she spent 8 years in prison. And then was released. And when she was released, it was some judge had sympathy on her, and she got released. There were actually riots that she was released. So she fled, and she went to the UK, and she applied for asylum. And her asylum was going to be granted until Theresa May, the prime minister, stepped in to deny it. And the reason for the denial was that they were afraid that it would cause violence in the UK. So basically, they're bowing down to Muslim extremists in the UK against a Christian woman. So now the UK apparently is no longer a safe place for people to flee to. It is now spoiled as a destination for asylum, because you basically cannot be safe there. If you are fleeing something from a Muslim country, you will not be safe in the UK. They've recreated what people are running away from.
I mean, I basically knew that it's too far gone.
Yeah.
Just from like all the stuff that I've seen. Like, I mean, if you look at Tommy Robinson's whole reason for being in this was to speak up about those girls getting gang raped.
Yeah.
And they, if you ask the Muslims about this, they will tell you that the girls were prostitutes.
Uh-huh.
I had one going at me
when they were 12 years old, 13 years old. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. They were all prostitutes. All these little 10-year-old girls were prostitutes. All of them. Tons of them. Not one or two. Something like 10,000. Right. Because in their mind, if you're not wearing a hijab, you're a prostitute.
Right.
I mean, I look very, very young. And it's already going on here in New York. I had a guy sitting in his car try to talk to me. He was a Muslim man. I mean, I just kept walking or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that that's what was going on.
Oh.
No.
So there was that.
Oh, El Black Hero asks, have you seen about the anti-LGBT protests? Yes, we subbed to Tim Pool. Tim Pool's been covering that.
He has. I should do one of those as well, because I think these two things are related. The story that I just described, I mean, that's why Elva Caro brought it up, is these are actually related, because it shows that the Muslim population has tremendous political power now in the UK. and they're doing things that they're getting the British government to do things that they normally wouldn't do.
Right, right.
That are contrary to British culture. And I think, my son and I talked about which country that do we think is going to have, if there's going to be a civil war, which country goes first? Because, I named in one of my videos the 6 countries that I think really make up what we normally think of as the West, or at least the countries of the West that are having very similar problems. And it was all the English-speaking, predominantly white countries, the United States, Canada, Ireland, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. This is before the New Zealand shooting. No, wait, maybe it was after. Anyway, so I said, those...
It's not just the English-speaking countries, because if you look at, like, Sweden's having severe issues.
Right. Okay, so I said these countries, and then you can debate whether it's also Western Europe and South Africa, because at least these 6 countries that I was referring to, we have very similar culture, and we have obviously brought together by common language. And then some of the other countries, they are also having some similar problems, but they're not quite as unified with us. So these countries, the 6 countries in the West, we're doing a lot of communication with each other in these videos. We're sharing a lot of videos, Canadians, British people, Australians, right. Americans. So I haven't really
everybody come to the US. We should just get all these people into the US and let all the other countries fall. Like, get all of the, like, similar to American conservatism, all the people with that mindset in these other countries, we should, like, get together and get them all out of there and get them to the US.
Yeah, that might be.
Start having arranged marriages. Yeah, find me a guy. I'll marry a nice conservative from another country.
So anyway, my son and I were talking about if there's going to be a civil war, which one of the 6 countries goes first? Because I was saying, I think if it starts in one, it's more likely to start in the others. Maybe not the next day, but it'll trigger it. And he said Canada. I said, why Canada? He said, because their food prices are so high. So I looked it up on Reddit, and he was referring to a Reddit thread, and I fact checked it, and I think Reddit is exaggerating the food prices in Canada. So I don't think it's going to be Canada, but I think it might be the UK that goes first, simply because of all the problems that I just described. I think people are getting very frustrated.
The UK has bigger issues, but on the other hand, I'm not sure their native population is going to fight back.
I think they will. I think they will. I haven't lost faith. I think they will. Although it could be New Zealand that goes first with the crackdowns that they're having right now. And I wouldn't have guessed that before, but suddenly, all of a sudden, everybody's going, because I've heard that a lot of the farmers, and I'll have to fact check this, I heard that a lot of the farmers are refusing to give up their guns. They're saying they're not going to.
Wow, cool.
Okay. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if they tried to actually take guns in the US? So
yeah, that would be crazy. I
had a super white pill last night. I was in the grocery store and I ran.
So what's a white pill?
So a white pill is like an incident of hope. So white pills are hope. Black pills are like lack of hope.
Yeah.
So, like, something that just makes you really discouraged towards the future. It's like, oh, I had a real black pill. So I had a real white pill that, because I've been writing occasionally letters to the editor for this small paper. I've written like maybe 3 or 4 of them. So small, like, Jewish paper for our neighborhood. And I ran into this woman that I run into her every once in a while, and I met her like, maybe 5 or 8 years ago or something like that at a Passover meal at somebody's house. Actually, I was at her mother's house. Her mother had me over for Passover for a meal. And then like I've run into her, and so anyway, she's like, I wanted to tell you that I read something you wrote recently. And she was like, and it was political and it was very good. She's like, I'm not a very political person, But it's just very, you know, it was a super white pill, and I forgot where I was going with this. We started talking about Second Amendment, and I was like saying, like, she's like, we should have guns. I mean, the bad guys have guns. Why shouldn't people have a legal right to have guns?
Yeah.
And, you know, this is the problem, is that these people who like believe these things don't get political and they don't vote. And I think the majority of the country has these like sane type beliefs, you know, and I told her, I said, well, I remember when I was in 8th grade, our social studies teacher told us, even if you don't want to have guns, you always vote for people to have guns because you need it as a hedge against tyranny. She was like, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, it was just a real white pill, because there's a handful of like loudmouth Democrats in our community who've been really like pushing, you know, and like this one guy, I think I mentioned this in this live stream, how he like comments on Jeremy on Facebook groups like, oh, she's a Republican, she's a Trump supporter, she's a Trump supporter. And a few other loudmouth ones that I have run into these people before, and they're like, you know, doing this kind of thing on Facebook. And so I was starting to get like really discouraged. And so that was like, you know, those incidences were black pills, but this incident was a nice little white pill.
Good. Good. I'm happy.
So.
Yeah. Well, I've got some white pills going on.
Eureka Hope, is that one of yours? Because I don't recognize that name.
Yes, I think so. I think I've seen Eureka Hope before.
So Eureka Hope says UK has big issues. They have many cultures that haven't assimilated into the native culture. They are getting arrested and jailed for speaking. Yep. They meaning like the native population.
Yeah.
Versus the, you know, non-assimilated people get to do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lovely.
What's the link to Laurel's channel? Let me put it in here. Whoopsie, I just did something. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, I moved my cursor and
Laurel didn't see.
You couldn't see it. It was on my computer.
No, I was just making a reference to
Andrew from
Andrew did that too.
Andrew did a whoopsie.
Andrew News. This is Maritza Schellberg. My name
that was funny.
Schellberg. This is Analytical News.
I make sure I got my address right for my website.
And also, you can alternatively hover over the right side of the screen. There should be 2 dots, 3 dots. I'm not sure what it is. And then click that. It'll bring up a menu, and the top choice should be go to channel. So you can also go to her channel and subscribe to her that way.
Yeah, okay. For my link, I messed up because it's youtube.com. Other than that, I did it right.
Yeah. Oh, I remember her. There was a guy in the conservative Mexican Discord asking people to check out her channel. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah. You're getting
cool.
Killing you. How come my subscribers don't ever do that? Can you do that? Go in the comments of like other people's channels and like tell them to check out Analytical Check. Yes. Thank you, Zelix.
So in terms of white pills, I am encouraged that we're seeing some more social media platforms pop up that are really protecting free speech, like Gab and BitChute and those sorts of things. We're seeing more alternatives. And ironically, I think if we weren't having, if we weren't having some of these deplatforming issues with the big social media platforms, people would not be using these alternatives. So in this kind of twisted way, it's creating the problem is creating a lot more competition than maybe otherwise there wouldn't have been. So that's sort of white pilling me, thinking maybe we'll get through this because competition is springing up, which is what the market is supposed to do when there's a problem. I'm still concerned about how much power MasterCard has, but I am encouraged by some of these new social media platforms.
I strongly encourage everybody to get on alternative sites. I'm actually on something, it's not super well known. It's like Free Zoxy or something like that.
I haven't heard of that one.
From New York City here. Oh, John, is that one of yours? Because I don't recognize
Nope.
it. I'm from New York City, so I don't know if you're one of my subscribers, and I just don't know who you are. But so yeah, hi John. I'm also from New York, so we should talk.
Oh, other white pills is that some states are now enacting free speech legislation.
Oh, and Missouri, the stuff that is it Missouri, Mississippi?
I don't know. I have to go look up some of the specifics.
Is like reinstating, like saying, like we're not going to follow federal orders. We like the Second Amendment.
Yes, we're seeing sanctuary cities for guns, which is cool. Yeah, so that, well, on the other hand, I mean, it seems really good, but when some of the states start saying, we're not going to follow federal law, and you're seeing this happen more and more and more, that's a precursor to civil war, because you're seeing some states basically breaking off.
Right.
So, I mean, we started off white pilling, now we're black pilling.
I mean, if you look at like sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, that's already states saying we're not going to follow.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in one of those awful dark blue states. I might need to move. I don't know how I do that though, considering. But
you could go to Houston if it's an Orthodox Jewish community you're looking for. There's some good ones in Houston.
Well, that's not the only issue. I'm also poor.
Well, then Houston is better than New York.
Yeah.
Except for the job issue.
Yeah, and the issue of like just picking up and moving can be like.
Yeah.
I think Dallas is actually more Jewish than Houston. There's some small cities that are turning over. Like South Bend, Indiana, has a growing Jewish community. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So
cool.
I lived in Texas for 4 years before this. Really? I lived in San Antonio myself. So.
I bet he lived and loved in Texas.
I see you're looking at the chat. Oh yeah, in the chat. But yeah, I mean, it's scary, but it's good that, you know, they're doing all of that. So, I don't know, what is there anything else you wanted to cover in the chat? We've been on the Hangout for a little while.
We've been on for a while. I mean, there's a few more things that I had written down in case it got slow, but we've been on for a while, so it's pretty good. I'm going to be doing another video pretty soon, another Civil War video. I did one. Really, I was going to cover all the topics that I wanted to cover. I didn't have enough time to cover in my first video. So I have a bunch of research for things that I didn't cover in my first Civil War video. So I think I'm going to do another one because the first one was about underlying causes. So I want to get to signs of that a civil war is imminent. And that'll be a video either tomorrow or next week. There's so much freaking news. I mean, there'll be slow news weeks where I'm like, what video am I going to do? I don't know what video I'm going to do because there's nothing going on. And then there's other weeks like this week where it's just crazy.
Happened in a few weeks, so
yeah, it's this week and last week. It's just been there's been so much news.
I'm like, I gotta catch up on my subs. I haven't watched all my videos, like, and I'm like going through my watch later, like, give up on this, give up on that, give up on this.
There's just so much. And here's the funny thing.
I put everything in my watch later.
This is what's hilarious. Is CNN and CNBC apparently had big ratings hits because after the Mueller investigation ended, the ratings went way, way down. And they said, oh, well, it's a slow news week. And everybody's like, what? No, it's not. This is a crazy news week. It's not a slow news week.
Well, what conservatives, I mean, you know, what conservatives care about is a little different from what they care about. Like, they're like, oh no, yeah, they're considering it a slow news week because they don't have Russia to talk about.
Exactly. They're like, what are we going to talk about now? News? How about going and talking to the people? I mean, talk about being out of touch. When they say there's no news, obviously you don't know the American people.
I'm sure there's always something they can find. I mean, I would say, like, if there's a slow news week, there's research that you could always do on, like, you could do more research on Southern Poverty Center. Shitty Poverty Law Center is what I like to call it. So that could be like your go-to. You could end up becoming kind of like the Shitty Poverty Law Center. I bet there's
I would love that.
Find out about them. One of the things I cover when I don't have like news stories to cover is I cover communism. So early on, I was covering a lot of like stuff with like BAM and Revolutionary Communist Party, even more so RevCom. Those are the people that go out to the protests with the big no signs.
Did we talk about BAM before?
I mentioned BAM because BAM is kind of how SPLC became on my radar.
The reason I bring it up is because one of the co-founders of BAM, by any means necessary, what for the audience, was went to my college, and I knew him, and his name is Luke Massey. One of the co-founders.
Recognize that name. Was he on like maybe the parent organization?
Well, I mean, BAM has been around for a long time, so
yeah, they changed their name.
He was one of the co-founders in the U.S.
I don't think, because it's women, it's like 3 women who are on their paperwork. I have a copy of their paperwork somewhere that I downloaded. I think somebody put it on it was on Daily Stormer, and I was doing searches for them, and then I like found it, like I was going through the images, and I didn't even know what Daily Stormer was, and I like saved the link, and then I also, as a precaution, thinking the site that I was on, not knowing what the site was, might take the stuff down. I saved like the screenshot of I screenshot the paperwork that they had uploaded. And then later on, of course, they took whoever the government, the left, Javette Falarka is not the founder of, she's actually like high middle management. The top people at BAM are Shanta Driver, and then there's 2 more that people don't ever hear their name, and then there was a 4th one that died.
Okay, so Google this. His name is Luke, Luke, Massey, Massie. Do Luke Massey and then BAM.
Huh. Okay. Let me do it in Firefox. Luke.
So this says BAM was founded in Berkeley, California in 1995 by attorney Shanta Driver and fellow activist Luke Massey.
That's not even true. They were actually founded in New York, and then they moved to, they had a different name when they were in New York. They were like, I have the paperwork somewhere. They had a different name in New York, and then they moved. They were in like, not like here in New York City. They were like near Albany. And Yvette actually joined on with them from there. She grew up in New York State. She grew up in the Finger Lakes region. So
there's a number of articles listing him as a co-founder of BAM.
Influence Watch, right off the bat. That's interesting. So maybe this is something that because Luke Massey is definitely not a name that, so like you could put that on your, if you run out of topics, I have like a huge list of like wish list of things I want to cover. Like I know somebody asked me to cover like the oppression Olympics type, the hierarchy and all of that, and talk about that. And I just haven't had a chance because there's always other stuff I want to talk about. But I have like a long list, and that's something like talking about this BAM and this Luke Massey guy and his connection to it. That could be something to put on your like rainy day list when the news is rainy day-ish.
Well, it looks like he hasn't been active with the organization for a number of years. I don't know what happened to him. He could be dead. I don't know.
But, or maybe, like, people have covered BAM, but there's a lot of stuff that gets missing. Like, the stuff about them starting in New York, all of that doesn't really get covered. So some of that stuff you could probably, but I have, like I said, I have a whole rainy day list. I can share it with you because, like, topics keep going on there that I like never end up covering. Another thing I started the research for and I never finished like enough research in doing a video was Weather Underground. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, vaguely.
Right. So that was originally I wasn't like hardcore like I do communism, but I mean like when I would meet people and I would be telling them about my channel and I'd be like, yeah, mostly I do communism. So, but it wasn't like the ideology because that we know about that. It was more like who are these organizations and how are they interconnected? And let's go on their website and find something like really interesting, like the Communist Constitution. Like, let's take a look at that. And so I did a few different videos. I talked about how they want to put everyone would have to under the commie constitution, everyone would have to be in a public school. And they would
I had an argument with somebody about like that because I was talking about I was in favor of school vouchers because right now the wealthy can already go to private schools. What school vouchers would do is make it so that other people can go. So it's not favoring the wealthy, it's favoring the middle class and the working class.
Right.
And when you're stuck in this school and you need to be able to get out right away because there's a bully or whatever, this gives you the opportunity to leave. And the friend that I was talking to said, no, what we need to do is make it so that private school is illegal and homeschooling is illegal and everybody must send their kids to the public school. And that way people will make the public schools better. And I was like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear what an infringement on personal freedom that is? Do you hear how authoritarian that is?
That person is a far left extremist.
Yes. Oh my God. I was going to take a Scottish card.
Like, it's really just disappointing that our media doesn't they call us far right extremists. Like, you're a mild Trump supporter and they call you a far right extremist. Why can't we call every Democrat a far left extremist? And something like that, someone like this person, like, why doesn't anybody on our side with a decent amount of following, like, why aren't people like OANN and Blue Collar, whatever? We should be calling like AOC. We should be calling her a far left extremist.
She is, yeah.
I mean, she absolutely is, and even people, Maxine Waters, far left extremist. I mean, Kirsten Gillibrand, far left extremist. Bernie Sanders, far left.
We need to start an organization to mirror the Southern Poverty Law Center and just start defaming everybody that we, get
Northern Poverty Law Center
on there, and then defame a couple of people while we're at it.
Laurel, I got it. Northern Poverty Law Center.
No, Northern Wealth Center. Northern Wealth Law Center.
Well, I think it would be funny to still do because the reason why they do poverty is because people are going to feel sorry for the poor.
Yeah.
So I still say Northern Poverty.
Oh man.
So yes, and they suggest government takeover will solve all our problems. Just like, well, Leftists.
Yeah, what they're saying is with the public schools, the government hasn't taken it over enough. If we just take it over more.
Yeah, I know. There was this. Do you know who High Impact Flicks is?
No.
He's an anarchist, but he kind of crosses over with our realm. Mm-hmm. So he's from Oklahoma, and he went to like the Washington D.C. when they had the gun debates or the gun protests, the march March for Our Lives or whatever, that happened right after Parkland. And he went to that, and of course he goes and he gets his camera in people's faces, and he's asking them like, what do you want? Well, what are you here like? And these people are saying like, well, there should be gun control, da, da, da. And he's like, well, who would end up having the guns if what you want to be implemented was implemented?
The government and the criminals.
Yeah, exactly. So, so they slowly admit the government, and then he asks them, do you trust the government? And, every time they're like, no. And one of the women that was on his video was an Orthodox Jewish woman.
Uh-huh.
And she doesn't live in my neighborhood, but she lives not too far from me. And I was like, she looks really familiar. And like, I think 3 or 4 months later, I was sitting on a bus, and literally I saw this woman walking down the sidewalk as I'm on the bus, and I'm like, that's the woman. I was like, wow. So
Elva Caro says the government and the criminals. Isn't that kind of redundant?
Exactly. The government, especially with the Democrat Party. I mean, they're like in bed with the criminals. Like that's why they're bringing MS-13 in.
Well, I think we need some government. I am a libertarian, but I think we should be keeping it to a minimum. But I certainly don't want the government and the criminals to be the only ones having the guns. I want some guns.
Oh yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need Congress people and senators like Jim Jordan. That's my favorite politician. Mm-hmm. Trump is not even my favorite politician. Jim Jordan's my favorite politician. And then there's I like Marsha Blackburn.
I don't think I know her.
She's newly elected senator from Tennessee. She had been a congresswoman. Huh. So she's pretty good. And yeah.
I think that there's a dearth of good politicians right now. I've heard Crenshaw. Crenshaw's good.
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy with the patch.
I still don't know. But anyway, so my dinner is ready.
All right. It was really good talking to you. I had a fabulous chat. We should definitely do this again, but you know what we should do? I should try to figure out how to do the Google Hangouts with my video camera, because I don't know why it wasn't working. So we will see if we can get that worked out before the next time we do this again.
Maybe like in a month.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah. Like when I have like a break for Passover, which is like probably right after Easter. It usually is most years, but it's like a month from now. Like April 22nd, 23rd, 24th, like in that area.
Okay.
That would be great. I'm probably gonna do more videos and live streams then.
Alrighty. Well, send me an email and we will do that.
Absolutely. Well, I also put comments on your videos because I believe that it helps the algorithm if you have lots of comments.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. All right. Does anybody have any last words or?
Elva Caro wants to help me with my tech issues. Go ahead. Send me an email. It's contactlaurel@protonmail.com. And I may take you up on that offer. I may fiddle around with it myself for a little bit, but yes, I would like to know why it didn't work, because it should have worked.
It was, yeah, I mean, like, you couldn't hear me. Like, I got in fine, but you couldn't hear me. So I don't know,
Right.
maybe have somebody else try it from with you and see if
Yeah.
like if it's, hopefully it's not my account. Like maybe I'm like low level shadow band or something.
I
I'm
don't know. I don't know.
not enough and I'm not controversial enough to be, so I don't know.
You got to try harder.
Yeah, right.
Be more controversial.
Yeah.
All right. So we will get together again in the future. We will email back and forth, and we will do that.
And everybody sub to Laurel.
And sub to Analytical Chick.
Yes, if you're not already subbed to my channel, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. All right. Thanks for stopping by my channel, and we'll see you all next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.